The 1939 German invasion of Poland, also known as the September Campaign or the 1939 Defense War in Poland, the German military advantage over Poland really allowed them to swiftly take over the entire large country in just over a month. And one of the fronts of conflict in the beginning phase of this war was the Modlin Front, in which the German army from East Prussia attempted to reach Warsaw the early days of the war. Poland had one army that defended the German army's advance from East Prussia, the Modlin Army, commanded by Emil Krukowicz Przezimierski. And positioned to north of Warsaw around the namesake fortress Modlin, it was tasked to defend early attacks in the direction of Warsaw and the cities of Płock and Mława, and then lead an organized retreat behind the second line of defense behind the rivers Vistula and Narew. And the Modlin Army was actually added to by the Narew group, which was another group which I'll get to later. The Modlin Army consisted of the 8th Infantry Division, the 20th Infantry Division, the Nowogrodzka Cavalry Brigade, the Mazowiecka Cavalry Brigade, and one National Defense Brigade, which was the Warsaw National Defense Brigade. And the Modlin Army was seen as an important army by the Polish headquarters, as it was directly defending the capital city and its government. It was really the only army that really did that. And during the secret Polish mobilization in March of this year, of 1939, Krukowicz Przezimierski was assigned a number of trainloads of concrete and other construction materials, and several combat engineering battalions to be used in his army. And therefore, after all of this, the Modlin Army became on the more well-equipped side of the Polish armies. Another important boon for the Modlin Army was the geography of the location. The area before the Modlin Forest was low and swampy, making it easier to defend against German armor. All the smaller rivers in the path of retreat for the Modlin Army could also be great for slowing down the Germans who are heavily motorized, after blowing up all the bridges, of course. In addition to the Modlin Army, as I said, a smaller force known as the Narew group was positioned even further northeast to defend the same area, and this group's commander, Czesław Mot-Fijikowski, was also reported to directly to the General HQ in Warsaw, to Ryszmigwi. And the Narew group was composed up of 2 divisions and 2 brigades. These are the 18th Infantry Division, the 33rd Infantry Division, the Podlacki Cavalry Brigade, and Suwałka Cavalry Brigade. And although the Narew group did not see significant action in the first few days of the war, it served as an important deterrent for a German attack east in the direction of east, say Białystok or Grodno. Okay, we looked at the Polish forces defending the north, and now I guess we can take a deeper dive at the German forces that are attacking the region. So, Fitter von Bock's Army Group North, it consisted of 2 armies, the 3rd Army, which is the attacking force in East Prussia, and also the 4th Army, which is in West Pomerania, that I'll get to some other time. So, although this army group totaled 21 divisions, the 3rd Army was the one that was responsible for the attack south from East Prussia against the Modlin Army. Mainly the Modlin Army, I guess also little the Narew group. So in East Prussia, this attacking force, the 3rd Army, was under command of Georg von Kugler. And the 3rd Army actually advanced in 2 directions, south towards Warsaw and west to help the 4th Army cut off the Polish corridor. And the 3rd Army consisted of 8 divisions in total, plus a few brigades that were divvied up into 3 army corps. And these 3 corps are the 1st, 21st and 26th. The 21st is Falcon Horse, which we won't really see. But Falcon Horse, Nicholas von Falcon Horse, 21st Army Corps, later to be seen in Norway, consisted of the 21st Infantry Division and the 228th Infantry Division, and was located like in the western part of western East Prussia near Marienwender. And this was the part of the 3rd Army that was going to help the 4th Army cut off the Polish corridor. But the 1st Army Corps and the 26th Army Corps were actually, they were the two forces that were attacking south. So the 1st Army Corps, commanded by Walter Petzel, which consisted of the 11th Infantry Division, 61st Infantry Division, and Panzer Division Kempf. All of these divisions in the 1st Corps were positioned frontally, positioned defensively, south, facing Moava, and with Panzer Division Kempf kind of spearheading the advance. It's a Panzer Division. The 26th Army Corps, actually was also referred to as the Vodry Corps, or the Vodry Group, or whatever else you want to call this corps size unit, that was commanded by Albert Vodrig. This consisted of the 1st Infantry Division and the 12th Infantry Division. And this corps was located in southern East Prussia, covering the 1st Corps' eastern flank. Or I guess you could say the 1st Corps was also defending this one's western flank as well. They were neutral, and they were all attacking south. And in addition, the 3rd Army also had the 217th Infantry Division, the 1st Cavalry Brigade, Group of Brand, the Brand Group, Borgar Command 15, but none of these would exactly be in direct use during the initial parts of the war. So, the main engagement is known as the Battle of Moava, which lasted from September 1st to September 3rd, and this was the main area of confrontation between German and Polish forces of the 3rd Army versus the Modlin Army and Narv Group. And against the German force attacking East Prussia, as I said, was the Modlin Army. So, for Władysław Borjanowski, who led the defenders, the goal was not to stop the Germans at the border, but to make a well-organized retreat behind the rivers Narv and Vistula, which would theoretically be a good defense enough to hold back the Germans until more help could arrive from Warsaw. Georg von Kuchler's goal as the commander of the 3rd Army was to advance his units to the Vistula within the first day, and while waiting for other armies to catch up towards Warsaw, like in like the 4th Army or the 3 armies of Army Group South, some elements of his army might meanwhile reach further east as well. That was the goal, that was the hope. The Germans heavily underestimated, however, the strength of the Polish defenses that have been built over the years in the interwar period, and Kuchler's goal of reaching the Vistula by the end of September 1st was very optimistic, to say the least. And he severely overestimated the Polish defenses in this area. And in addition to being closer to home, the Modlin Army benefited from the swampiness, like the swampy environment of the area between his army and the Modlin fortress, and this will make it easier to, it made it harder for armored vehicles, German armored vehicles like Panzers, to move quickly through the swamp. That's very difficult. However, being on foot, like much of the Polish units, it didn't really bother them much. And as for the cavalry brigades, they were both positioned on the 2 flanks, the left and the right flanks of this massif, of this terrain. So Panzer Division Kempf, which is the one Panzer division within the 3rd Army attacking force would probably have to go around the swamps, most likely. And Bordanovsky understood this, so that's why he positioned his 2 cavalry brigades at the end, at each end of the swamp, with the 20th Infantry Division being directly in the city of Młava, and the 8th Infantry Division also kind of being behind. It's behind Młava, but it's basically in the Fortress Modlin. And the Narv group, far to north, was also put on full alert for such an attack, and it was ready to defend with 2 of its infantry divisions and its 2 cavalry brigades, as I described earlier. So from now, I'll probably talk chronologically, September 1st, September 2nd, September 3rd, and up to September 4th, about how the Battle of Młava took place, and the other such battles in this entire front, although mainly the Battle of Młava. So on September 1st, that's when the Germans first attacked. As we all know, 4:45 a.m., Germany attacked Poland in all corners of its borders, from East Prussia, from Slovakia, from its mainland, everywhere. And this was no exception. So, Walter Petzel's First Corps, which, remind you, consists of Panzer Division Kempf, the 11th and 61st Divisions, this advanced from the western side of the front directly towards Młava. And meanwhile, Albert Wodryk's 26th Corps advanced east of Młava towards the town of Przecienice. And the German 11th Infantry Division was repulsed by the Polish 78th Infantry Division, while SS Regiment Deutschland, which is part of Panzer Division Kempf, was halted by the Polish defenses at the village of Uniszki Zawadzki, and called for armor support from the rest of the division. But in other parts of this division, like Panzer Regiment 7, that arrived at around 15 o'clock to support them, but they were completely mauled by Polish anti-tank defenses, and was a largely unsuccessful attack. And after this failure, Walter Petzel realized that he needed to relocate his forces further east instead of directly at Młava. That was not going to work. However, the 26th Corps was already east, and it saw greater success during this day. And although the 1st German Infantry Division failed to make any real significant initial gains, Petzel's left flank was a success, as his 12th Infantry Division and the Cavalry Brigade, all of Wodryk's 26th Corps, managed to break the Mazowiecki Cavalry Brigade further west. And by the end of this first day of September 1st, the 3rd Army really made very little gains against the strong defenses of the Modlin Army in general. So, troops on both sides of the front line rested for most of the night and the morning of September 2nd. So here's the second day. In the afternoon, the German units started heavily artillery bombardment of Polish positions in coordination with an air attack by Luftwaffe Stuka dive bombers. And after 2 hours of artillery fire, the German 11th Infantry Division attempted to advance, but was forced back by the 80th Infantry Regiment. And the 61st Infantry Regiment launched another attack, but was also repelled. It was repelled by the 78th Infantry Regiment. So 78th, 79th, and 80th Infantry Regiments are what compose the 20th Polish Division. I guess I didn't say that before. And on the Polish right flank, however, so the Germans left, the German 1st Infantry Division successfully outflanked the Polish 79th Infantry Regiment at Rzeszów and was on its way southwards. There was nothing really stopping it other than the 8th Infantry Division. The regiment retreated towards Mława at around 3 or 4 p.m., around 16 o'clock. And 3rd Army Commander Georg von Kugler, after sensing weakness on the Polish right flank, he bypassed Petzel's orders, which was to keep Panzer Division Camp where it was. Instead, he insisted to move it towards Rzeszów and prepare for an even more powerful assault the next day. So, meanwhile, on the Polish side, Krukowiec-Przeworsk ordered the 20th Division to extend its line of defenses further east, prepare of its right flank between the villages of Dapsk and Norzewo. So, basically, it's extending his front line, and this would be pretty bad because less concentration in each corner of his defenses, so it's pretty weak defense, the 20th Division. So, Krukowiec-Przeworsk also ordered the 8th Infantry Division, which was, as you know, it was just in reserve, basically near Modlin Fortress, near the town of Rzeszów, and he ordered it to prepare a counterattack east of Mława on the right flank. So he brought in all reserves, all force to defend Mława and the area east of it. And although much of the German attacks on September 1st were unsuccessful, the breakthrough of the 1st Infantry Division did allow for future progress to be possible, like in September 3rd, how they might break through potentially. And that's what I'll talk about. Far in the west of the line, however, the 3rd Army's 217th Infantry Division made small gains against the Novogrodzka Cavalry Brigade. I haven't talked about this area a lot, but the 217th Infantry Division, which was directly under control of the 3rd Army, made small gains. And then, alright, back in this area of Mława and just east of it, the Polish 8th Infantry Division arrived in the area for a counterattack just before the dawn of September 3rd. So they were traveling during the night and arrived early in the morning. Krukowiec-Przeworsk ordered the division in the east flank to counterattack Woderik's 1st Division and his 12th Division. But German saboteurs, combined with all of the disagreement and confusion within the Polish ranks, this led to chaos. And within the brigade, even friendly fire between the 13th and 32nd Infantry Regiments happened, and this actually led to the disintegration of both regiments. They were both destroyed not by Germans, but by themselves. And Panzer Division Kempf, which had been moved east since the previous night, arrived by the afternoon of the 3rd, of September 3rd. And it made some serious attacks against the elements of the Polish 20th Division on its eastern side, actually. And on the same day, engineers of the 1st Corps managed to break through the Polish anti-tank defenses at Mława this day. This allowed both divisions, the 61st and 11th Divisions, to overrun several barriers on the left flank of Mława. So both of these German advances, the right flank and the left flank of Mława, jeopardized the entire 20th Division from encirclement, and therefore the divisional commander actually ordered the retreat of the unit southwards, but the order wouldn't actually be approved by Krukowiec-Przeworsk until the next day. On the order of that, September 4th, in the morning, Krukowiec-Przeworsk did agree, and he ordered his retreat south towards the Modlin Fortress, which was, that was the intended plan, that they will hold on for a couple days and then they retreat southwards with the Modlin fortress. Krugovich Przezimierski, I love saying that name. Krugovich Przezimierski, he also ordered the remaining single regiment of the 80th Infantry Division to retreat back as well. And during the retreat that day, the Poles were constantly under Luftwaffe bombardment, and Mazowiecki Cavalry Brigade causing major casualties and loss of equipment. And unlike the orderly retreat that was planned, this retreat became very disorderly and full of chaos and losses. So by 4 p.m., the Germans had captured the city of Mowa, and there wasn't much resistance. But further east, the Novogorodska Cavalry Brigade did remain at its initial defenses, and it would not retreat until much, much later.